Thanks for clicking on the video. Like, subscribe, and share if you find this useful or interesting. Okay, so the last two episodes, I didn't share any models, and we haven't done anything. We talked about surface quality, how to inspect it on a technical level, and then in the last episode, in a general sense, I talked about good design takes time and familiarity with the tool. So you need to do a bunch of experimenting. So today, let's just get back to business. To make this a library object, we want to keep the minimum of things here. We don't need the fillet. We don't need the chamfer. I don't even want the offset anymore because it has a specific thickness. So as you change the size of the model, things are going to work and not work that don't have anything to do with the workflow, but that have to do with the size of this offset. So I'm going to delete that, and the only thing the highest level object I'm going to keep is this curved workbench solid. Now this is good because we will be doing quick visual inspections on it. So to make it useful for that, we need to have it be at fairly high quality, 1 angular deflection, 0.3 deviation. Okay. And as I talked about earlier, there's a defect in the area of this strip. I just don't like it from a design point of view, even though the objects are doing what I asked of them. So let's look at that real quick. Let me turn this. I had a curves geometry inspection tool active. I'm going to go right here. I'm going to set the appearance on this guy just for fun. I'm going to make it chrome. Okay. Give it a reasonable color. I like this one here. And we will make its display mode shaded so that we don't see the lines. Remember, the black lines hide problems. So this is a good bare minimum number of view sets. Remember that the original objects are in our workspace, and I should already, I didn't have a copy of for a view set. So we'll make a view for this object with the link. We'll move it to 800. In the x minus 800 and the y, which is what I showed in the previous examples. Now I can hide the original. And this is a good number of starter objects. This is what we need to see. We can turn on, you can add as many view sets as you want here, and you could choose to show all kinds of things. I'm just going to leave that up to you. For now, I'm going to say that this is the interface. And these are the view sets we need. So since there's only a single object here, I'm not going to bother making a folder for it, although I did flag this as being an external operation after we have our final surfaces here. Okay. Now I want to undo all these weird changes that I did here to the curves and the cutting points. So right now, I have this bump here, and I want to back off these changes. This blend is fairly wide in two directions, and my first instinct was, well, I probably need to narrow it if I want to keep it this long. Spoiler, that doesn't work. It's reducing the size of this cut that ends up fixing it. So let me just show you what that looks like. This one here cuts away 75% of this upper surface, and that's what's causing the problem. It's a huge part of what's causing the problem. And that for the future, we will be blending this to other things on either side, so we don't want to have the maintained surfaces be all the way to one side. Let's put this back at least all the way down to 0.25. And give it a second to update. Okay, so I brought this all the way back down here. And look, already, no bump. Or maybe a tiny little bit of bump right here, very small amount. What if I also bring back the surface from the bottom? See, this one here normally would be at 0.75. It's all the way down to 0.25. Let's make that 0.75. Okay. So now I have a lot more of my original surface came back, is there still a bump? Let me select something that's not in this area. And now here, I think I got the bump out, or at least I can't easily see it. Even if there is still a little bump hiding in there somewhere, I don't see it in the vertical direction. What if I look across the center? Okay, now I really see where this transition is occurring. But first of all, it's not as bad as it was before. And now maybe I should reduce these other ones. So I'm going to edit these points in the bottom in a batch. You can select them one by one and back them off. But I know that all these points are part of my blending setup. They're in the point on curve cuts. And I know that all the points for the first section are here. So I'm going to grab all the starts. Put them all at 0.25. It's thinking. And I'm going to grab all the ends. So notice how the starts have moved, but the ends haven't. So I'm going to grab all the ends. There's 4 of them. And I'm going to move these to 0.75. It's going to update these positions here. Okay. So now I have a lot more of my original surface back. This strip is longer in this direction than in this direction, but they're using the same proportion of each surface. I still see the transition, but there is a transition, right? There is a transition between these surfaces, so it already looks a lot less like a default to me than it did before. I see this curve. Well, that's the curve I drew. Okay. So this looks like less of a problem to me than it did before. And if you were trying to use just this many curves to make an object, you might leave it here. Because we want to make a general purpose object, I'm also going to back off these points. So we'll be using even less of our model, but we'll have room to blend in other things. So this was at 0.95. I'm going to put it at 0.75. I've already put this one here at 0.25 and this one at 0.75, so that leaves me this guy on the bottom here. So knowing where things are in the folders is nice, because sometimes it's still difficult to click on things, but it's possible. So this was 0.05, let's make that 0.25. Okay, so I have brought back the segmentation to default values. This is good for general purpose, and later, once you've connected this to other things, and you're able to take into account what's happening at the end of this section here, and at the end of this section here, then you'll have room to adjust these things, and that's what we'll do later with caps. For now, let's just normalize this thing a little bit. Also, what was giving us so much trouble in this model was this curve right here. So let's see why it was giving us. Well, let's just set it back to a default value. I look in my control sketches, and I see this guy. Okay. Now remember, early on, it was nice to update everything automatically so we could see the changes in real time. Now that we have high quality, full surfaces, things are slowing down a little bit too much. So what you probably want when you want to make a bunch of changes in a sketch, you should turn off auto update. Otherwise, just touching a surface triggers an update, and that sucks. Just dragging the surface without even changing it will make FreeCAD recompute everything. When you're changing just one dimension, that's fine. If you just want to change one dimension and see the impact as soon as possible, this is good. Right now, I want to reconfigure this sketch. So I've turned off auto update. What do I want to do? I want to bring it back to defaults. I'm going to put this back at 30, which makes it similar to this side. Actually, it looks a little bit too small. Let me use the view section here so that I only see one more on the bottom, but not the one above. And I can just tell from the gap here and the gap here that actually 30 is too small. I'm going to put it at 50. That looks about right. And now I'm going to make these lines equal again. And I make them equal so that as I manipulate my default object, things will scale well together. And now when I hit close, it's actually going to update. Okay. So you see, and here now we're looking very good. Even the transition that we see is fine because that's literally the transition we're asking for. And in the corner here, I can kind of see both transitions at the same time, but as soon as I put any emphasis on this line, this transition here appears to fade away, especially when there's a highlight. Now that we have this, it's really hard to see the lines crossing at the same time. You kind of have to go looking half in the shade, half in the shadows to be able to see that, oh, there's a little cross going on here. So, and even when you see the cross, it corresponds well to our design, so I think this is reasonable. All right. So that was the sketch that I had done a lot of changes to. Let's see, what about the other ones? Yeah, all of these look like they're scaling back to the layouts. What did I do in the layouts? Well, first of all, in the layouts, I added some random rotations to the planes. And you really ought to pick one direction to twist this thing in most of the time. So I like the rotation in this orientation, but really for a general purpose object, I don't like having this rotation on the bottom. So I look at the first layout and I say this 20-degree rotation, I don't want that anymore. Okay, so now I flattened it. And usually it's a good idea to leave this one exactly on the XY plane, right? 0 motions and 0 rotations. But if you were to start rotating, remember that the default rotation is the Z. So I'm going to put that back as if I had never rotated it. It's updating. Okay. So this is a pretty good state, I think, for these layouts to be. Maybe I can bring back the top one downward a little bit again, so that the overall shape is not so dramatic. And it also, notice that it also evens out my blend. Now my blend is much closer to being a square. I can see my basic shape. This is my library object, and I can see at a quick glance how much sculptability it has in it. Actually, I'm gonna, let's see, let's do things in order. So I've repositioned the layouts, and I've made a single rotation. This one shows that, hey, you can move this layout up and down, and you can also move it in any direction. And this one here tells you, hey, you can also rotate these layouts in any direction you want. So when I look at these three, it gives me a pretty good idea of what kind of flexibility I'm going to have. There's another issue. I had played around with the dimensions in the layout. The first one still is pretty reasonable. Defaults 100, 100, 500, 500, 100, 100, 150, 150. That's fine. The next one, I had started doing some shifts. And I had made an uneven shift, because if you remember, I was showing you, hey, look, you can create a very controlled offset with local differences. That's nice, but for now, let's make it a little bit more general. I'll make the difference even bigger. I'm going to go to negative 200, but I'm going to make it symmetric. And then here, I'll even do minus 150 and minus 150 right here. Now, I still have auto update off because I want to make a whole bunch of changes at once. I'm familiar with this model and I know what these changes are going to do. Right now, I don't need to see an update on every single little thing. If you're new to the system, it is definitely worth keeping auto update on and seeing one at a time what the changes are doing. But once you're familiar, you turn that off. We don't want to wait 5 or 6 seconds or 11 seconds or 30 seconds every time we make a change. And we don't want to be turning on and off the precision of this object every time. So doing a bunch of changes and then closing the sketch is fun. Here I'm going to do minus 120. Here 120. Here 550. And here 550. Okay, and now I close, and now everything is going to update. Okay, so this shape explains itself a little bit better, and so that's useful for a library object. I have a clearer change from the bottom to the top, and I can see that I can move a section, and I can see that I can rotate a section. Great. Right now, these sketches are very uniform. That's fine. So this is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and do a control. I'm going to do a save as. And I'm going to call this I'm going to call this utility loft or utility 3x4 patch, just so we have consistency in what I was calling things before. Okay, I'm going to save that, and this file here, this is the file that I'm going to share at the end of the episode. Okay, so now we have this thing. I'm going to put this in the view sets, because I moved it, but I forgot to put it in there. Okay, now we're in pretty good shape. There is one thing that's missing, though, in my opinion. And that's the next level of control that we need in this structure. And that is that every time I copy-paste this thing, I have to move these layouts one at a time. And it's fun because it makes the object jump one section at a time. And I think it looks really neat when it does that. I hope you enjoy that as well. But that means 3 recomputations. And that's a pain in the butt, and 3 edits. So I want to attach these sketches to each other, and I'm going to start in the simplest way possible. Later, I'll show you how to build a sketch of a spine that can either be in one plane or in fully 3-dimensional, and that way you have some kind of curve or some kind of sequence of lines that you're placing these sections on. But for now, all we have to do is attach. See, none of these have mapping. This one is sitting on the XY plane. That's fine. That's where we're going to leave it. And this one is not attached to anything. We just moved it manually up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach everything to the first section. I could attach the second one to the first and the third one to the second, and that way they would chain. That's actually a huge pain in the butt, and it's better done with those top level spine sketches that I was talking about. For now, all we want is things to move together. So here is how that is going to work. Remember that this right now it's only doing one thing. It's being moved up to 500. I'm going to map this layout, and I'm going to map it to the sketch. Remember, we don't click objects when we're doing the FreeCAD attachment. We don't click little pieces of an object in here, because it's going to trigger complex options, which are great, but not what we want right now. I am going to attach this sketch to I'm going to attach this layout to the first layout in the same way that I attached the poly sketches to the layout sketches. So I'm going to click this here, and it says objects XY. That's great, but notice it's snapped down. What I want to do is I'm going to add an attachment offset and the local coordinates. What are the local coordinates? The local coordinates are this. And if you remember, when I was in world, I was at 500 in the Z. Now I'm attached to the sketch, which is the same as world. So I'm going to give 500 in the Z. And here we go. This thing is back up here. I'm getting some strange things happening here because my model snapped back, but remember, after I finish here, I'm going to need to do one more recompute. Right now, it's really interesting. It's showing you what you need to do to create a complex flat bottom. Isn't that neat? It just automatically created for you a complex flat bottom, because when you have a four-sided thing, there's a super simple way to make this bottom, and that is to make an entire face on the bottom from the four curves. But if you had 5, 6, or 7, or 8 curves around the bottom, you wouldn't be able to make just a single face to join all of those. So you would have to create 4 more faces just to merge onto the bottom flat face. This is what I was showing in the very first video of this series with the complex fingertip mouse. And right now I just created it for us really fast. So that's one way of creating it. If you wanted to create it this way, you would just do this, and then you would create more surfaces on top. I'm going to show you how to rebuild this by hand. But this was funny. Okay, so I've done this. I'm going to hit recompute. It's thinking. And here we go. Because I attached this layout to this layout, and now my offset lives here, it snapped back to what I wanted. Let's do this again. It's going to be really funny. I take this. I don't want it to be floating in space individually placed at 1000. I want it to be mapped to the first layout, and it will have a local offset of 1000 in those coordinates. Ready? Map mode. Do not click in the window. Don't click anything in the window. Just click this object. This is going to be our root object that everything travels with. Click this guy. Oh no, it snapped all the way back down. What do I need to do? I need to... And notice that now our silk object is extremely confused. It really doesn't know what to do about anything. I'm going to go 1000 in the Z. Enter. Okay, it snapped back up, but only partly. Notice that it's showing the blend, but the blend is actually traveling back downward. Right now, we have a perfect double-folded blend. It's hilarious, but not a good way to model. See, this blend here is going up and then right back down. This is really funny. But, wait a second here. This position at 1000, I was in the middle of my attachment. Did I hit enter? Oh, I must have hit enter. So I go to property view. I go back to its attachment. I didn't do enough things. But I can just go back in. Okay, object XY of this sketch, that's right. 1000 in the Z, that's right. But I also had a rotation. And my rotation, if you remember, was around the x-axis. So this interface here is different from the standard placement. In standard placement, you defined a rotation axis. And then you had one value for the angle. Here, it's broken down the rotations. Now, the order in which you do them is going to matter. So I'm only going to do one. It's going to be around x, and it's 20. Now I'm back to my original object. But I still need to update. So I'm going to update so we don't have this weirdness double fold anymore. Okay. And notice that right before these two were at different stages of not updating. Go back and check if you want. This here was showing the original version that was still like very confused about what we were doing, and this one had a doubled blend. They had stopped updating at different stages, but now we're back to normal. What did we do? We attached this object to the layout, and then we gave it a local offset of 500 to reestablish. See now, if I look in here, this has zeros everywhere. You no longer edit the base, it is mapped, okay? If you want to edit these things, you have to go to the mapping. Oh no, I'm sorry, I was looking at the base object. I'm sorry. This is the one we changed. If you want to change this object in relation to the base, you no longer edit right here. This is now derived. If you want to change where this is, you have to modify the attachment offset. This is annoying, but it was very simple to do. Later on, I'll show you how to do this with 2D sketches and 3D sketches. But this is a useful skill for the rest of FreeCAD. So here, this is where I can change this, right? See, I just moved it down to 400. And when I do this, okay, hey, look, now everything is moving correctly, and I no longer have to hit this update tool all the time. And if I want to change the angle that I have in this one, it's also in the attachment offset. And when I hit return, everything updates correctly. So you no longer edit the base placement, you edit the attachment offset because you have mapped it to something. Why did I do all this stuff? Because now, when I create a copy, as a matter of fact, let's do this. Let's do it instead of talking about it. Right now, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to put these view sets as part of my patch because they're very useful, and every time I make a copy, I want all these things to come along. So this is a good view state for this library object, and now I'm going to copy it and paste it. Notice that I didn't drop it into my utilities folder yet, because if I made a mistake, that would be egg on my face. So I'm just testing it. Okay, so I just made my copy. Am I going to get what I want? I said I want to move this entire object just by editing the position of this sketch. This one is not mapped to anything. I can still edit its placement, and I want to move its placement in the X 2000, 200, 0. Oh no, I said X. And now I can see in the preview, without updating anything, that I was wrong. X is wrong. X is here. I want to move my next copy into Y. Give me one moment. Oh, it says 2. I need a 0 here. Give it just a second. See, because I want to leave things at high quality, I don't want to have to edit too many times, and I don't want to edit all 3 of them and actually calculate a distorted position. I only want to edit this one, 2000. And when I hit return, I want everything to update. Return. 3, 4, 5. In 5 seconds, I have obtained a copy of my utility 3x4 patch. Now, you don't have to move it. Things that live in your utilities folders just stay at the origin. There's just a ton of them. It's not a big deal. You don't have to move this immediately, but you can make several copies and attach them to each other. I'll show you how to do that at some point, but before I show you how to chain this object to itself a bunch of times, I want to show you how to make caps. That's more important than building a sequence of 3, 4, 5, 70 of these things together. This is enough to understand how the blends work on when everything is 4-sided, where there's always 4 curves meeting. Next, I need to show you how to build caps, where there are only 3 lines meeting together, and we don't want to add more. So I've made my copy of my utility object, and now I can edit it. Remember, here I should only edit the shape, and I should try to avoid moving this because it's right at the origin. But I could snap it onto here. I'm going to do this real quick, just because it's funny. Okay, you see this guy? I said, oh, you shouldn't always move this. Well, if you were chaining two of these together, what you would do is you would just say, take this guy and say, hey, you don't live at the origin anymore. You live on this object. Remember, I don't want to click it in the window. I need to find it. This maps onto this. Oh, this is going to be funny. See, it just snapped right here. What's going to happen when I say okay? Ooh, look at that. I said I wasn't gonna do it, but I couldn't help myself. How hard is it going to be to connect these two? How hard? Well, if you remember in our blending setup, I told you we need to go ahead and prepare the edge grids to blend, even for the sections that we can't blend yet. So if I do that in the first section, and I do that in the second sections, look right here. We already have everything we need to blend these two together. Oh, it's so tempting to do that right now. I can just snap these two grids and make the edge blends right here. And then I have to make 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, and I'll be right at the stage where I'm making the double blend. That was fun. But that's not the point today. Today, I want to show you that you make a new independent object. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into map mode, and I'm going to hit deactivated. I'm going to remove this right here. And I'm going to say deactivated. Okay. Something really interesting. When I do that, it just left my object wherever I had moved it last. Isn't that interesting? After I unmap something, it doesn't snap back to where it was. Now, this no longer has a map mode, but the placement carries over from what happened when I did that. That's fine. I know where I want it to be. I want it to be at Z of 0. And this is going to take a couple updates. So don't map things unless you mean it. I'm going to put this at 0. And what I had said I wanted to do with this is I said I wanted to go to 2000 in the Y. So I think that was neat. What I was going to show you was my classic, hey, let's just move this thing up in the air to show you that these are independent objects. So to go up in the air, remember here, because they're now linked, I can't edit these anymore. It's tricky. Remember, attached object, do not mess with the base placement. Go to the local attachment offset. And you'll know the difference because you'll see only the things you expect to see here, whereas here you will see the total compound and this weird action that happens on this one. So here I just go here, and I'm going to go to 3000. Wait. It's taking a second, and here we go. Okay, I am very happy with this library object. You see how I could even like make a copy, leave it in place, make a second copy, and snap one to the next, and I already had everything I need to do the final steps of the blending. We may improve this later. We may come back one day and say, you know what, let's go back to our library object and let's give it another key view set that we really care about. Or you may choose to say, hey, I'm confused about this step, so I want to see this particular step and I want to see it separate. You may say, well, it's nice to see the curves and the cut points, but I want to see the segments by themselves. Or I want to have a view where I just see the blending preview curves. You can do whatever you want. But this is a good starting point, and this is the file I'm going to give you. Here's what it's going to look like. I've got this object here, and this guy right here is ready to move into my utilities folder. For now. We may make different versions later. And now I can hide all my utility objects. And now that I've hidden my utility objects, I said, hey, I don't have to move this thing. Since this is now a design object, not a utility, I should probably just put it right back at the origin. And you know, I think I'm going to leave this one as it is in the library. What we're going to do with this one is we're going to explore the options on how to use a sketch to make a spine to control these sections so we don't have to dig up these local attachments. This is okay. And you might choose to work at this stage, just like you might choose to work with completely independent section layouts that don't travel together. But now we've gone one step ahead and make them travel together. The next evolution of this object will be how to have one control sketch where you can adjust all three positions at once, and then the layout, and then each of these sections just snaps every time you update. But for now, we're in a pretty good state, and this is what I'm going to share with you. I'm going to leave this one open to remind you that when we add more things to this object is just begging to blend. It is like, I have the sections, bro. I'm ready. Just snap something else to me and boom, boom. 4 edge blends, 4 corner blends, done. All right, play around with this thing and then we'll make some caps. Save. And this is the file I'll share. Take care.